Hello, Brandeska here again. Today I'm going to talk about something that is not specifically Splatoon related in and of itself, but due to the way that I use my Nintendo Switch, it's still something I wish worked a little better than it does now, that would normally be another small goalpost for gauging progression. So kick back, enjoy gameplay of me clawing my way back into S+ from A+. It was a rough couple of rotations, man. And let's talk about the time played indicator on the Nintendo Switch, and how easily it can get messed up permanently. So back in late August, early September of 2019, I picked up one of the revised Nintendo Switch units pretty much as soon as one was available in my area. Before then, I had been sharing a launch Switch with my wife, and the writing had been on the wall for some time that arrangement wasn't going to hold up in the face of increased time that I was spending in Splatoon, and especially not with incoming titles like Pokemon Sword and Shield, and especially Animal Crossing New Horizons being irrefutable hard stops on if we needed a Switch for each of us or not. At the time, I figured I would do a data migration for my account from the old Switch to the new one and pick right up where I left off in every sense, but as it turns out, that wasn't going to be entirely the case. At the time I got my new, now current Switch, I had logged a total of 495 hours in Splatoon 2, according to the Switch's built-in ability to track time spent in a given game. As you may imagine, given some of my reasons for getting a Switch for myself in the first place, my time playing Splatoon only increased as a result. But I had noticed that after what should have been a substantial amount of time to roll that over from 495 hours to 500 hours, that it just wasn't happening. I shrugged it off in the moment, guessing it was probably just being weird and would update soon, but after a nearly 8-hour straight session of Splatoon without the time played having changed to reflect that, I started to suspect that something had gotten stuck somewhere. So I did what anybody in my position would have done. I looked to see if anyone else was experiencing this issue on Reddit, and as it turns out, this is kind of a known thing for the Nintendo Switch after doing a data migration, and it got dumber the more I read into it. So, unlike other game consoles or services that will track progress made by your account regardless of what physical device you use your account on, such as time played for games on Steam or achievements and trophies on Xbox and PlayStation, the Switch appears to track game usage on a console-by-console basis. That means that as long as I'm using my new Switch to play games that I had already logged time in, I have to surpass whatever amount of time I played a given title on the other Switch in order for any change at all to get reflected. While this affects any game I played previous to the new Switch, Splatoon 2 is the game that I play the most, and the one I actually care to know about the most. So, to put it as simply as possible, that means that my time played in Splatoon 2 will not roll over from 495 hours to 500 hours until I have played 500 brand new hours on my new, current Switch specifically. In turn, that means that when my time played for Splatoon 2 actually performs that rollover to 500, it will mean that I have actually spent a total playtime of 1,000 hours in that game. Theoretically, that also means that I could play for just 5 hours on what's now my wife's Switch and see that number jump to 500. But doing that kind of messes with the purpose of me getting my own Switch in the first place, and ultimately isn't how that tracker should work anyways. Now, before I get responses like, who cares, it doesn't matter, the amount of time played doesn't say anything about how good you are at the game, etc., let me put it out there that while it doesn't matter, it's still a detail that is important enough to me and how I track stuff, and at minimum feels like an oversight on the Switch development team's side. Seriously, why there always gotta be a butt, Nintendo? Why there always gotta be a button? Anyways, now it's just a weird thing about the Switch that is always in the back of my mind when friends talk about either getting one for themselves like I did, or when their unit is experiencing a problem and a replacement is needed before it just stops working altogether. Particularly if you play Splatoon, this is a big deal due to how much time it takes to grind gear out and the lack of any real way to preserve Splatoon 2 game data. Since Nintendo Switch Online's cloud save feature doesn't support Splatoon 2, the only way to preserve it is literally to migrate the data to another Switch, which is bonkers. Again, why there always gotta be a but? But yeah, when I have friends talk about how they have issues like overheating or power management and need to get a replacement, In the back of my mind, I'm all like, it's gonna mess with their time played indicators when they do that, and there's nothing that can be done about it because, And I mean, in all likelihood, meanwhile, the person that I'm angsting over that particular issue with doesn't actually care one way or the other. While it's not a big deal to all players, it feels like a miss that it has to just be that way arbitrarily. It feels needless and dumb. Easier to code and manage on the back-end side, perhaps, but dumb and under-featured compared to other platforms and honestly just what we as end users have come to expect at this point. I wanted to make this video as a way of pointing it out to people that may not be aware that this is a thing that just kinda is what it is, until some kind of change is made by Nintendo, assuming anything like that ever comes to pass. You may not really care either way, and that's fine, but as somebody that likes having my stats be accurate and legitimately does want to know how much time I have spent in one game versus another for my own reasons, I wish it was up to snuff with basically every other platform out there. And maybe I'm just overreacting to all this. Like has been pointed out, it doesn't really matter, it just kind of feels like it should work, you know? And I don't know, I felt like talking about it today. If you have any thoughts or questions about the things that I covered in this video, or want to just commiserate a bit if you have come to similar conclusions about this yourself, leave a comment and we'll cry about it more together, I guess. Anyways, that's all I've got for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and consider subscribing for more. Thanks again for watching, be sure to check your map often, and remember to be good to yourself today.